Model has been raring to go. I worked a lot of hours getting her ready to go. Picking up the...
Hello. Welcome to Paul's Place. This afternoon we're going to do a 1-hour documentary like we haven't done in the last 10. I've surrounded myself with some of the greatest race drivers around today, and from the preliminary talks we've had in here while we're getting ready to get started, this is going to be one of the better ones that we've done. We're missing one person, Dick Patty. I don't know if the rain's got him or what, but Dick hasn't shown up, and if he does, we'll put him on. If not, we'll go without him. Lineup today that I've got here is, like I said, one of the better ones. I got Frank Meyers, Rocky Fisher, Scott Stovall, Jim Nusbaum, and Larry Harp with me. And we'll start over here with Frank. Frank, what are you doing nowadays?
Well, I'm retired and I guess doing the housework for my wife, and I have a Corvette and I play around with that a lot, and that's my race car and show car and everything else now. So
when we edit this to put it on the air, we're going to delete that part where you're doing the housework for your wife.
Okay.
We're going to get that out and put
All
something
right.
in like,
Yeah, throw that
like
out
you're
of
watching TV or something.
Right.
Okay. Rocky, what are you doing for mischief?
Well, I'm basically retired from Tokheim.
Yeah.
I still have a sprint car.
Yeah.
Sold my pavement car. I'm down to a dirt car. Going to do some dirt racing this year. And I'm also promoting collectible and memorabilia shows.
Yeah, I was at that last one you had. It was a nice one.
So we've got another one scheduled at the same place for November 28th this coming year.
That ought to pack the
Going
place.
to try to put a new twist to it, maybe by bringing in some of the former local area guys for an autograph session.
Yeah, I think the last one I was at there, you had caught a lot of people off guard. They didn't know what all was in there.
Right.
And now that...
But we had a good morning crowd. In the afternoon it kind of drifted away.
Yeah.
So we need to do something to strengthen that afternoon crowd. So
Yeah.
we had Jack Hewitt and Mel Kenyon showed up and got a real good show. We had 100 tables,
Yeah.
you know, collectibles. So
Yeah, there was a lot of people I talked to inside and outside of the show that if they knew, they said, if I'd known this, I'd have done this and done that. So I think the next one you'll see a lot more pictures anyway floating around.
Right.
Scott is raining out today, so you get the day off.
Yeah, I've been working hard. Myself and Brian Barkus are getting together again. We're going to put together a late model to run out at Bearfield this year.
Yeah. You're just going to run Bearfield?
We'll start out planning on just running Bearfield. And
No ASA or anything like that?
Not at this point in time, but if something comes along, we'll jump into it.
Okay. Well, that's what racing's all about.
Yeah.
Jim Nusbaum, I see you every Thursday.
Yeah, most every Thursday.
Yeah. You didn't show up
I
yesterday.
didn't show up yesterday.
We had
just decided
Corvettes.
I didn't need to buy anything yesterday, so I stayed home. Otherwise, I might have been tempted.
We had a lot of Corvettes out there, probably about 30 or 40. I think everyone out of Decatur was up at the show. And Rolls-Royce, they had a toy show. And they had an old 67 Ford Econoline pickup truck. I drove it through the auction. Big 6-cylinder, just about snapped your neck. You let out on the clutch. It was pretty nice. Larry, you're in business for yourself, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Larry Harp.
Me and my boy. Yeah.
You're, none of these guys can move without you moving first. Is that correct?
Not really. I've been with about everybody in racing somewhere along the line. Done a little work for Rocky and done a little work for Frank and a little work for Jim and a lifetime work with Scott and about everybody. And me and my boy are together and we build and take care of race cars. Most of our work right now is coming from like Cleveland, Ohio, down through Flat Rock, Michigan.
The old ARCA.
No, we're doing mostly super lates.
Yeah, ARCA.
But
John Markham, you know, he
do
ran that
some,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, Flat Rock and Toledo, and come down through that direction. I know that's the way we used to travel.
Yeah.
Traveled up there. That's 30 years ago, 20 years ago anyway.
Yeah.
But I know I've talked to you quite a bit on the phone while we were lining all this stuff up. And there's one thing I forgot about when we first got started. Frank, I don't know if you're memory can go back this far, but go back into
Not very long.
Go back into the 40s. Remember back in about 46, 47, or well, they wouldn't leave us drive our cars to school, and we used to have to take the bus to school, and we'd run down there on Calhoun Street and grab a handful of the daily special going north, and we get up to Central, have to walk from Calhoun down to the school. I can still remember them, some of them snowball fights we used to have.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
But that's been a long time ago.
Sure has.
I'm in charge of the Central Alumni Mobilia stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'm on that, so before we get out of here today, I need to talk to you about some of this stuff, because we got a meeting coming up next Tuesday at noon, and alumni, we're going to have a Central High School something going on this summer. I tried to get something to go with the Three Rivers Festival, but when I talked to the people, they invited me down, and I sat in a whole class with them, but it's too late in the season to get it for this year, but maybe for next year. And but anyway, getting back to racing, and that's why we're all here. This is the first program that I've ran now that's not attached to any certain track like South Anthony or Bearfield or the big track or the Coliseum or Old Timers. What it is just you run what you brung. Now, if Rocky wants to run his sprint car in with our modified, that's fine. If he
You
wants to
weren't
run a
quite
midget
that
in there, that's
dumb, were you?
A couple times.
Rocky and I, we made it down into the warm weather a couple times. I remember one time, 1966, I think it was.
Yeah.
We went down, and of course, I never pulled any of you guys. Any of you guys ever run Clem's Lake in Decatur?
I never did.
Never did.
Never heard of it.
Not unless
I
you're
heard of
talking
it, but it
about,
was gone.
you're not
long
talking
before I
about
got down
Howard
there.
Rex's place, are you?
No, that was up at,
Yeah.
that was up
off
at
of
Big Egg.
33.
No, Clem's Lake was a little quarter-mile dirt track we all kid about, because we used to race down there when we weren't doing anything else. And well, last couple weeks ago, one of the guys that I ran down there, I think it was Jack Riley, and I think he was pulling my leg or something, but because I could whip him on that track. And anyway, I won the set fast time and won the first heat and won the feature, and I went out of there with $3. And and Jack's trying to start some stuff, and he walked out of there with $5. Now I don't know if that's true or not. I think he was pulling my leg, but getting back to that, some of the stuff that we went on, and it just wasn't so. But anyway, we went down to 66. We went down to Florida racing, and I don't know. I know the last race we left the racetrack was Paul Martin, the announcer, and
Right.
myself and my brother. And
Columbia County. South
Columbia
Carolina.
County, and I was driving, and Dick says, "Aren't you going back to the motel?" And I said, "Dick, the next stop I'm going to make is at a rest stop for gas." And I says, "The next stop after that will be Toledo, Ohio."
Well, we were done after that. So we were supposed to go to Greenville Pickens Speedway,
Yeah,
and that promoter was there.
yeah,
So we had about 12 cars, but we only ended up in the feature with 6.
yeah. I remember.
Herman
well.
Wise won it. I run second, and I don't know who the other guys were.
Well,
But the guy from Greenville Pickens, we were there at Columbia on a Tuesday, and we're supposed to go to Greenville Pickens on a Thursday.
yeah,
And he said, "I've got probably a sellout." He said, "But we're not going to be able to run this race." He said, "If you show up there with 6 cars, my people will burn the grandstand down." So he said, "We're going to cancel it." So we were done after that race, But he said, "You get some 20 cars and come back, and you can run."
yeah. Do you remember who was in the pits that night over there?
I remember everybody. I remember the guy that got me around the racetrack. What
Yeah.
tire to put on the right front? Leroy Yarborough.
Leroy was there, and Cal was
Tiny
there,
Lund,
Junior
his head was
Johnson,
about that
Tiny
big.
Lund,
Richard
Dick
Petty.
Petty, Richard Petty. I never seen it looked like everybody from NASCAR
Yeah.
they were in the pits that night, and the announcer took over for Paul Martin. He was the warden for the penitentiary
Yeah.
there, or
Yeah.
they would have burned the grandstands down that night.
Well, we'd run a heat race, and then however it finished, we'd run a second heat. We'd just invert everybody, and how that ended, we'd invert them again till we got down to feature. That's all we could do.
Yeah.
I think Herman and I put a pretty good show on in the feature. He had brought his super modified down there.
Yeah.
I said, well, at first I said, you can't run, you know, and I got to look around, the promoter said, count your cars.
Don't put it
I
away.
said, he can run.
Yeah, earlier we'd been in Jacksonville, on
Yeah.
that flat
Oiled track.
oiled track, and that's where Bobby Bell, or which one of the Bells? One of the Bell
Yeah.
boys
No,
took a heck of a flip there,
Yeah.
put him in the hospital, tore that car all up.
he never did get any better.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
that, I remember that, but
Yep.
that was, geez, that's way back in the 60s. That's
Yep.
40-some years ago. But,
We were making plans to go to California the next year, but it never materialized.
yeah, well, I didn't reserve any motel rooms out there either. See, Frank, you missed all this fun.
I guess.
back in there. Scott, what do you got to say about racing? You raced Daytona. Did you ever run Talladega?
Yeah, I raced Daytona, Talladega, Pocono,
Pocono?
Atlanta.
I never was at Pocono. That was one of the tracks. Atlanta, yeah, we were
I
there.
raced at the old Atlanta before they changed the
Before they
configuration.
turned around, yeah. That's, they switched it around earlier. That was a good track. I was at that track one day. Junior Johnson was driving a 409. Is that what Chevy made, a 409?
Yeah.
And he was running the wheels off of that car and pulled in the pits. He was out front when they pulled in for pit stops, pulled into pits, and somehow that distributor or something caught the lip of the cap and broke the rotor. And they realized what it was fast enough. He had a good pit crew or what have you, and they put another distributor in that thing, put him out, and he's 3 laps down. And they put him back on the racetrack. And at the last caution flag, with about 8 laps to go, he made up all but that one last lap. If they had ran that track one more race, he would have been out front. He put on a show with that Chevrolet that day. That was Atlanta. Talladega, I don't know, your memories of Talladega go back. That was an old World War II bomber base. And the 21st will bring a lot of that stuff up. Dimmitt and his crew will be in there, the PTS thing. We're going to do one on that, the 21st, and we got some fond memories of that place. They rebuild fire trucks down there now, or they were the last time I was
They
in
always
there.
did.
Yeah. I didn't know that's what they always did, but they
Yeah.
build them. Anybody got anything you want to talk about racing? Just kick in. We're going to be the fastest hour in.
One of the wildest races he ever had at Atlanta was in June or July. Which was that, Scott?
It was in July.
And we was down there, and it was so hot, I can't explain it to you. I was standing by the water fountain, letting the water run on my feet in order to keep my feet from cooking. And now this is no joke.
I don't guess hot down there.
Well, they only run one race like that, and then they quit that. But anyway, he was running second and really got in the lead. He was going to win it. He comes on the radio and he says, there was guys passing out. There was guys doing everything. It was unreal to see somebody come down the track a weaving and then going off there. But anyway, he was out there and he radios into me. He says, you know what? He says, I don't think I can make it. And I thought, yeah, I gotta get this kid going. And so I made him mad. I says, now look, you're not giving up. He says, hey, you ought to be out here in the car. I says, and now listen, you're the one who wanted to be the race driver. I've done my job. I said, you just keep your butt out there. You keep going. And I'm making him mad, and he's going, and he's going, and he did finish second. And when they pulled him in, you will not believe, they had ambulance crews for everybody, and they packed them in ice. You can't believe what it looks to see somebody packed in ice.
They pulled everybody out of their cars.
Except Davey Allison, who won it. And he just barely won it. And he comes out just cool as a crystal. He had a cool suit on, you know. He was the only one who could probably afford it in our group.
Well, they were.
Yeah, but that was unreal.
It
Scott,
was a little warm.
he was giving me that because he said, you know, you're not out here, he says.
We never ran in a temperature like that.
It was
that
so
hot.
warm that you would never believe it. Hottest thing I ever seen.
They were talking about California last
Yeah.
NASCAR race out there, how hot it was in the cars. But they all got a cool helmet and a cool suits on now that they didn't have before. But Rocky, you should be able to remember this far back, even though you're a lot younger than we are.
Right.
you started younger than we did. You was
Right.
6 or 7 when you started driving
No,
to catch up with
15
us.
really.
But remember when we used to run alcohol in them flatheads
Mhm.
and fuel injected in modifieds?
Yep.
And in August, running out of South Anthony, that cold draft that always come off of the engine on the right hand, well, not on the right hand side, on the car I drove, because the floorboards were out on the left hand side, that's where the breeze come through. But your head would bake and you catch that draft of the frost coming off the manifold.
I'm not that old. No, I was not in town when,
Okay.
when I came to town about 62,
Yeah.
1962, and
I see
drive, Gifford.
South Anthony, late models
well,
had
they were
already
still
taken
running.
over.
Well, they were still running because I went to work for Dave Firthmiller,
Yeah,
and I built a set of headers for Bob Coe's flathead coupe, that blue Mahan Coe heating air conditioning car.
yeah. First Miller's still around?
He's dead.
No, he passed away.
He,
Yeah.
Yeah, passed away a year and a half, 2 years ago.
he worked at Dana.
Did he? I never knowed him
Yeah.
to have a job.
He worked for the railroad the last.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
worked for the railroad at last.
'Cause, he was working at Dana when I got that set of 412 gears out of there. Dana used to furnish us with gears. If we'd take the old gears back, they'd give us.
They knew it?
Yeah.
Yes,
knew
they did. They
Okay.
knew it because they always wanted us to run that lock rear end of theirs without welding it, and we couldn't do that. And they never liked to see it when we brought it back with them spider gears welded up in it.
You know, you was talking about that alcohol draft.
Yeah,
See, it was like 57 out there, and they had this, I think it was still just starting the Monzas, and they was racing, and they pulled them up and stopped them for an accident, see. So they're sitting there in the pits, and before they get it started, I can't remember who was behind my dad, but they was criping because he had stuff all over his windshield. He says, Harp is throwing oil and stuff all over. He says, look at my helmet. He says, look at my windshield. Of course, this is when they was running super modified, see. And they're checking my dad's car over and they can't find nothing. And the guy said, listen, look at my helmet. He says, I'm telling you, Elmer's throwing stuff all over the track. See, and Dad's up about 4th. And so my dad's getting in, he's buckling up. He said, look her over, boys. He says, I'm not leaking nothing. He says, he said, there's not leaking nothing. He says, and he always had a big chew in his mouth. He said, not leaking nothing. But, you know,
wonder anybody close to him could see.
yeah, gosh, yeah.
I never heard that one before.
Yeah.
That one is different.
Well,
I can just see him
my
doing
dad went
that.
over the bank at Fort Wayne Speedway up through 1,
Yeah,
and he survived the accident okay, but he swallowed that chew of tobacco and about killed him.
yeah, I
Yeah.
heard that happen. I worked construction, had a guy fall. He only fell about 15 feet, but he had a chew in his mouth and it went down him, and boy, he was sick as a dog for about 6 weeks.
You know, everybody's always talking about old times, and I'm always listening. And of course, they start off, and you know, you go back to you're a kid, and they go to talking about old time. They're always talking about old times, and you find out they're talking like through the 60s.
Yeah,
You know, and then I think, geez, I thought you were about talking about old times. You know, I'm thinking about back when my dad and all was racing in the 50s and 40s and stuff there.
Yep.
Yeah.
We-
And there ain't hardly nobody left, also.
No.
no, there is.
I don't know of anybody hardly, you know.
I had some
Yeah.
commentaries there that when I had Riley and Jack Riley and
Now, I think
Yeah.
Howard Rex was around back then.
oh yeah, Howard Rex,
Yeah.
Chuck Courtney used to drive his car before Riley ever
Yeah.
drove it, and then Archie Holly drove it up
Archie-
in Warsaw,
Warsaw,
that modified and that.
Yeah. And I was talking to, I don't know of anybody, I was talking to Bob Coe the other day, he's at my place all the time.
Yeah.
And they was talking about when the track first started. Well, Mace McCulloch, Bob McCulloch, and my dad built the track.
Yeah,
And then Ray Walters come in when they paved it a year later. So, and nobody know that they run the dirt track, but I think it was run for about a year.
You
Was
run it for a
around
year.
there?
I drove it on a dirt track the first year it was there. We on that. If you ever look at the South Anthony, we had the thing. There's no pictures of South Anthony.
I got a couple.
And
did turn
of
that
the track
off.
itself.
No, it shows the pits and stuff. Like, for instance, nobody knows, I always talk to them about South End. You remember where the pit stand was?
Yeah, yeah.
Where was the pit stand?
The pit stand to check into pits.
No, the pit, where you
Pit, they
it.
were over there on number 3 corner, just as you went down
They
the
were
back
on
straight.
number 1.
Well, no, they were over there on number 3. They're number
Not
1.
when it first started.
Oh, well,
But
when the
Scott,
first one, no, you're right.
it was on number 1.
Number 1, yeah, when
And they
they
went
first
out
started.
between the grandstands and number 1.
Yeah. That's the very first year
Yeah.
that they were in operation.
Yeah, and then after they paved
Well,
it, they moved it around to number 4.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is,
Yeah.
because the first year that they had the racetrack, down between 3 and 4, they had a, what I want to call it, a swimming pool is what it was, down
Yeah,
there, detention pond down there. And as you went into 3, or from 3 into 4, the detention pond was right there to your left, and they put a pipe then under the track and drained that all out. And that was the only drain that was on the racetrack when it was dirt. Anyway, I got that 37 Ford two-door mine upside down going into 3 and went into that detention pond upside down.
Yeah.
I like let it drown.
Well, there was
getting
no
out of
wall when they first started the track
No.
on 3 and 4.
there. No, it was all
Well,
bare.
that's hard to believe, isn't it? Because it was a swamp. Yeah.
No, so whenever they paved the track, then they put the pits back there between 3 and 4, or just off of 3, towards the back, towards the woods, back towards, what's his name, Carl Harbor Sr.'s South Anthony surplus barn was back that way. And then there was a path went all the way back to the barn there. And you come in, right, the road is still there. It's between the Lutheran home, Embassy Drive or something, and anyway, that's the drive up, and when you got just past the fence, that's where you checked in at, and then you went around the pits and parked back there.
You know, one night we were running and I hit the wall on number 3 corner. And I bounced off the wall and the car spun around and here come a group of cars and then one of them hit me broadside, knocked me out.
Yeah.
So they said, well, he's got to go to the hospital. So they put me on a stretcher and they had an old Pontiac hearse. They threw me in the back of that and it went up the hill in 3 into the pits. The door flew open and I come flying right back out of that baby on that stretcher. That hurt a lot more than the wall did, I guarantee you. I thought, man, I'm going to be dead before I ever get anywhere.
Now you know why they started PTS.
That's right. Boy, that was something. I couldn't believe it.
Well, like I'd talked, when you were talking about South Anthony, when it first started, it had a 1-inch guy cable round
Yeah.
down there in 1 and 2. And I was driving Ted Barr's coupe that night and got into that guy cable, and it brought the right corner post down into the glove compartment. And I went over the other direction, and this thing had a window like that in the back. It was a 3-window coupe, and we'd broke the glass out of it, but it was still jagged. And Jim Hoagland crawled in there to get me out of there, and he cut his arms up and down like that. By the time he got me where I could get out and everything, he had blood on my ears and my hair and all over my neck and a T-shirt that said South Anthony on it. And they hauled me to the hospital, too. They wouldn't listen to me. I kept telling them, there ain't nothing wrong with me. Take Ogie. He's cut up. Oh, no. They take me in the hospital,
Probably
washed
had
me
to
up.
give him more attention than you.
They washed me
Sounds
up, and they
like-
said, there ain't nothing wrong with you. I said, well, I've been trying to tell you that for 2 hours. They used to take you up to the old Methodist hospital there on Lewis Street. And, of course, that's history, too.
Oh, they took me to Parkview. Down the Anthony.
Down on Anthony?
Yeah.
That was
Well,
later
that was
on.
later on.
Yeah.
You know,
Because-
it goes back, yeah.
Yeah, in 51,
Yeah.
the old Methodist hospital was still in operation.
Yeah. That's
Jim-
where they went, though. And
Yeah. You was talking earlier about one of your better race cars. You come home from vacation and you found the fenders dented on it?
Yes, we had just built the car the previous winter, and I ran it for a while through the '64 season at Bear Field, and I had planned or went to northern Michigan on vacation for 2 weeks, and I come back, And one of the first things I did was open the garage door, and I looked in there, and I see my car's wrecked. And I got to thinking, what could have happened? And then the phone in the house rang, and I went to it, and it was Bush Ashley, who was my mechanic and my engine builder, was on the phone, and he says, Jim, have you been out in the garage yet? Yes, Butch, I have. What happened? He says, well, Jerry Ott and I and a couple guys were sitting around talking about racing, and everybody here knows Jerry Ott, from the big track especially. And it was, somebody got the idea that maybe he could run the big race at Bear Field this weekend, since you're not going to be here. And, you know, Jerry's capable, which I understand or realized. But somehow or another he spun it or got spun out on the start, and before it was all over with, the car was totaled. So the way it turned out, Jerry decided that he was back in racing because he was going to buy it and fix it. That's the only choice he had. But that was a very surprising thing to come home, and this was on a Saturday, or I think it was on a Saturday, and I was going to try to get it ready, and it was ready to race. It was race ready, but it wasn't after that.
Yeah. Things like that happen.
I don't know how many of you fellows know Jerry very well, but you know, he was a very good race driver in his day. Years ago he used to run. Well, first of all, that car right there that Rusty Hartman drove, he drove.
Yep.
When Rusty went to California, and that's what he started in. And well, he might not start there, but then he raced for years, and he was really good. And he raced sprint cars too.
Yeah.
And he done real good. And then he got wrecked real bad and had a plate in his head. And then later on, he come back racing later on. You know, it's, of course, South Anthony. There was a period there that South Anthony closed for a season, didn't they?
No.
And they quit running. Well, Howard Bice come in and took it over.
Yeah.
Brought the Warsaw group down, and remember. And then they never really had supers there anymore, except maybe once in a while on Tuesday nights. And Jerry come back and started racing there again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
South Anthony, when there was only about 2 years there when the Racing Association pulled out, and then they went out to Bearfield, and Harbor himself, Harbor Jr., they went over to Ohio and that brought back people.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't pan out, so they folded up the racetrack. And I don't know if you watch the tape on South Anthony, there was a lot of stuff there that I didn't know anything about till Carl Jr. had told us about. He was, before they sold everything to Bice, they were going to move the racetrack down on Highway 3, or Highway 1 at the Wells County line.
Really?
And they went down and they found the land and everything, and a guy by the name of Sycophus owned the property. And they went into Bluffton and found out they didn't need any permits or anything. They could go ahead and do it. And Carl Jr. and Carl Sr. went up to Sycophus's house, said, we're going into town and have the lawyers draw up the papers and we'll be back. We'll take the place. On the way into town, Carl Sr. had a stroke. It about did him in then, and that's when Carl Jr. decided there wouldn't be no more racing in his family. So that's when they decided to sell it all to Bice and leave Bice move it to Villa. So I didn't know that till he was telling me about it.
Well, that turned out to be a good deal.
And he was also telling me, you know where Hillcrest Drive-In movie was out there in Hanna and Tillman? Before South Anthony, before they left to build the racetrack there, Hillcrest had looked that land over and was going to put the drive-in movie there. And then something fell through that they couldn't, and that's when McCulloch's and Walters took over and put the racetrack in there, that 35 acres there. So he was...
For a racetrack like South Anthony, we ran 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
Bearfield had never done that. They never could. They never did. And we packed that house every night we ran there.
Well, you know why.
Well, I know why, yeah.
South Anthony
we used
was
to put
okay
on-
for just racing, but it really wasn't a very good racetrack.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was small.
The grandstand
And
set
because-
right up on the track.
But they did have some wild races there.
Sure they did. And that's
Especially
what
when they
people
brought
like.
guys in on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
That was as good a race as you're gonna have, but the track was the walls were rough.
Yeah,
Man,
Well-
you tore up a car, something terrible there.
I know you did.
Yeah,
But it was close competition. People like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
that was one thing I had in one of these notes, but it's not in my book when I clean things out, is I had some about Jack Riley pulling in the pits and says to Howard Rex, "Hey, Howard, one of the plug wires has jumped off, open the hood and put it back on." And Howard says, "I can't, my keys to the padlocks in my other pants." You know, he used to keep his hood locked on that thing.
Oh.
That was one of them.
Yeah, you did. I remember that.
The other one was Frank Meyers pulling in the pits, talking to Roger, and Roger says, "Now don't drift down in front of Cliff anymore."
Have you had Cliff on?
Yeah, he's been on a couple of shows. Yeah. We,
I remember one night I got into it with Cliff, and I dumped her end for end 3 times and barrel rolled it 3 times right down the middle of the infield.
that's from drifting down in front of Cliff.
And that wasn't too good of a deal.
No,
But all I got out of that was a scratch finger, so I guess I was pretty
yeah,
lucky there.
you were there.
And I guess the car got as high as the lights
Yeah.
at one time. It did. But
Speaking of South Anthony, and like Larry said, the condition of the track wasn't so awful bad, but I found one of the flaws the hard way. And when I was qualifying, in going into the third turn, you loosen up the rear end so you slide and get you coming off the next turn. Well, I went into the 4th turn pretty hard, and my right rear tire hit a hole, and in so doing, it rolled me 2.5 times, and it about totaled my car. But that's another example of what some of the things that some of the disrepair it was.
It was rough. It was a rough
yeah, it
place.
was.
Yeah, it was to a degree, but it wasn't as rough as the big track.
Oh no.
I
No,
don't-
we're talking, no.
That big track had to be
Unreal.
the roughest rough track I ever drove on. And Rocky, you said it earlier, you got into that one.
Yeah, it was very rough. Winchester got rough,
Yeah,
later on, but it was never as bad as
No, not
the big track.
They
I
had,
run Winchester this year.
when they built that
As
big
of right
track,
now,
they had left the
They're
tree
working-
stumps and
there's several
everything
people
in it
working
when they
on it.
run the dirt up
Really?
over it, and then of course that stuff would rot, and you get sinkholes, and your pavement would break up, and at the speeds you were running on that track, it made it a little bit more of an obstacle course in addition to a race course.
Right.
So
Well, Jim, I said this in one of the other programs I think was on the big track. It wasn't the way the track was rough, it's the way the track was built that made it rough. Instead of having a roller roll the track, all the way around like that, and I think they finally caught on to that because there at the end, the big track had a wide area up there, and he had a D8 with a yard arm on it. I don't know if you remember seeing that out there. But I think they rolled that track from
Yeah.
top to bottom.
That's the way they did all of
And
them. years
back
ago.
in them days, I think they did. And that's what give it that ripple effect. Because if you remember, as you come out of 2, going down the back straightaway where the billboards were, if you come up high on that, you was in the ripple effect. In fact, you had to back off and get in the middle of the racetrack, or you're going in the signboards. That was all there was to it. And if you went in too low, if you come out of 2 real low and come up, you went into the
yeah,
signboards.
probably one of the most important things to set up there is to know the track and know where to run it. Because if you didn't run it in the right place, you might get in trouble.
Well, you got in trouble anyway.
They really didn't have equipment for like hubs and stuff to run that track.
No.
It wasn't really, it was way more than they should have had.
Well,
Yeah.
when they
Well,
first
now
The
started.
best thing they did was cut it up.
Nothing was advanced
Yeah.
that far yet.
No,
You're right.
there was a transition where we came out of the war to WW2 in the 40s, and then we went to just running jalopies and stuff like that. And then I want to say about 1965, we went high tech because we went with overhead engines, 12-volt ignitions
Right.
and stuff like that. Racing was altogether different after that. Up until then, you built your own car. You bought your car, you built the car, you knew what was in it and everything else. And after about, I'm going to say about 1965, you could go buy all that. Just like today. Today, nobody builds their own car. Guys like you assemble one for somebody.
No, we build them.
Yeah, but you,
Yeah.
you don't have to build one. You can buy everything there is
Yeah.
to run a car from
Yeah.
from the motor to the chassis to the suspension to everything there is. It's all for sale out there. Back when we was racing, the only thing for sale was tires and rims, and gas tanks and radiators. Scott, you're awful quiet back here. You've done more racing than all of us.
Yeah, but it was after 40s and 50s. That started in 77 for me.
Yeah. I can remember once.
That's hard to believe, too, if you think about it.
What's that,
20-some years.
20-some years?
Yeah.
This would
Really?
be 27 years.
That's a long time too. But
Yeah.
We're talking about generations, aren't we?
Yeah. I can remember.
Yeah.
Of course, I started driving around racetracks when I was 8 years old after the races were over, and Dad had the tire truck, and everybody'd close down and stand back in the pits and talk, and he'd say, go bother me, go out and drive around the track. So I got a lot of laps in even before I started racing.
I got a picture of you. You're about that tall down at Daytona, and you got a checker flag in each hand, running down the track.
I don't think that boy was ever that short.
He was that little. You've run some pretty good tracks. You really didn't get. I don't know whether you missed anything or not. I think you did. You never got to run the bull rings that we had to run, or we didn't have to run them. That's what we had to run on. That was it.
Well, there's
By
quite a few bull rings out there that I've been on.
Yeah,
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he did run a lot of them.
Afterwards, well, in your smaller tracks, a half mile stuff like that were good bull rings. But
Yeah.
back when we were racing, that's all they was. There weren't no
We ran-
Talladega.
We've run a lot of.
Yeah.
I've run a lot of quarter mile and
Yeah.
3/8 and whatnot. So, I mean,
You
all over.
run Eliana, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've run Eliana.
Yeah.
I've run all over the tri-state area, and
Yeah.
then we've, branched out a little bit. Ran down Owensboro, Kentucky. And
Did you ever run Quincy up here, Quincy, Michigan?
No.
That was a flat dirt half mile. You run that, didn't you? Yeah.
Bank now.
Is it banked?
Yeah, it was always banked. Really bad.
Oh, that was flat when I drove it. That's
I
been
don't remember
35 years
that.
ago.
You must have went to another track.
No, just up there off of 12.
Yeah. No, it was always a high bank hole.
Maybe you went to Manchester. That was banked too.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was
And it was tar.
oil
Yeah.
dirt.
Yeah, oil, dirt.
Yeah.
When the sun went down, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But boy, wasn't it terrible when the sun didn't go down?
Right. Especially if you're up there with a pavement car.
Yeah. That's
I went up
right.
there, took my pavement car up there 2 years ago for dealer's choice and
Yeah.
made a complete fool out of it.
Yeah.
Started on the front of both heat races and both last chance races. Led everybody in the corner each time, but nobody came out.
Tell me, Rocky, about this one. This is a picture
That's
here.
a sod show up at Springport, Michigan, back to about 95 or something like that. Mike Katz is in the white car and the other one's my car. We got tangled up coming out of 2. That's a 3/8 paved track, and we gyrated. We never went upside down, but we just kept gyrating all the way down the backstretch, banging each other, till we hit the wall in 3.
That stopped everything.
Stopped and I took him to the hospital for about a week with neck injuries. I had all the pavement stuff in that, of course, front axle, shocks, and torsion bars and everything. And we had a show the next day at Merritt Speedway, clear up by Houghton Lake, Michigan.
Yeah.
So I drove all night and went up there, and the track owner let me in the morning. He was mowing the weeds, and I put all my dirt stuff on and raced that next night then.
What's this one?
That's Terre Haute.
That's the action track?
Yeah, that's qualifying, and what they did this particular night, it was a special promotion. And as you went into 3 when you were qualifying, when you went into 3, they'd fire the
The fire
aerial
crackers.
bomb. And then as you're coming out of 4, that thing would show up, and they got everybody. It was kind of a neat deal.
Yeah,
You know,
makes a nice picture.
Everybody that qualified got one of those, yeah.
If we'd had that at South
I've never seen
Anthony,
that one.
we'd had that at South Anthony, it'd show you doing a barrel roll down the main
Yeah.
straightaway and the fireworks going off.
Yeah.
I've got a picture at home. I ran out at St. Louis one time. They had a little road course out there where the big speedway's at now. And somebody took a picture of me going around that low road course and it had the arch in the background. That's
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be neat, yeah.
I remember this. This is about one of your middle of this.
Well, that's the one that I made my living in, that car there. That picture is at Ionia, Michigan.
Is this the one
Fairground.
this one you had down south when we were down there?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the one that I ran at Lima and Eldora, Findlay, Fremont, won track championships, and like I said, made a living with it. Made a lot of money with that car.
Yeah. Again, the only one I made a lot of money with is
That
the
was,
one.
as you can see, I had a very high dollar wing on it at the time.
Yeah.
3 pieces of plywood and some universal angle iron.
Yeah.
But
mean-
most of it was run without a wing.
I never could figure out how you make a lot of money with a race car.
Well,
Well,
When they was talking about that $3 and $5, that's what I was
drivers
going
do.
to
Costs them.
Yeah, that's-
Everything's went up in racing but the payoff.
back when I was running that car, we were still running Hoosier recaps.
Yeah.
And they were $65, and I only put 2 right rears on all year, and I was running like 45 races.
this thing's got
That's
pro
the
strip
big
on it.
difference.
This
Yeah.
Norm bump stuff.
That's not, that's at Bear Field, and that's like about 94 or 5 when it was still, before it became auto value super sprints. They used to be sod sprints on dirt. They ran pavement and dirt tracks.
Sod, weren't they out of Michigan?
Yeah, still are. They're still running.
Out of Kalamazoo or somewhere
Yeah,
up there?
they're still running.
Yeah, like you said, still, we'd make our big money down there at Clem's Lake and then take it all home and invest it.
Well, you talk about the $2 and $3 thing. You know, my dad raced before the war
Yeah.
and after the war, but since then passed away. Well, I got a metal box at home. It's got a stack of envelopes in it. You know, like you used to get from the bank. You know,
Yeah.
brown envelopes, manila envelopes, they're bust stacked like that. And he's got first. They used to call them elimination races instead of heat races. First elimination race, $3. Second in a consi, $2. Seventh in a feature, $6. You know, I got a whole stack of them like that. So that's what he was running for back then.
Your dad worked with my dad over in Tokheim.
My dad didn't.
Didn't?
No, I'm from Detroit.
No, I'm thinking of somebody else. Worked over there with my dad in Tokheim. I know you worked there afterwards, and my cousin worked there afterwards.
I went there in '88.
Yeah.
I retired in 2001, I guess.
There ain't very many guys can say they actually made a living racing. My dad did.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, when he raced it, started out at the Fort Wayne Speedway, was back in, and he knowed absolutely nothing. I don't think anybody did. There was some guys
No, you just
who'd raced
start
before
from
the
new.
war, but after the war, he got second in the first race they had there. A guy named Jake Zimmerman won it.
Yeah.
My dad got second at 37 Auburn. You know how he was talking about tires?
Mm-hmm.
My dad was cutting tires up and putting inside tires because there wasn't no tires. Running 2 tires, one inside the other, out there.
Yeah.
And he made, that's the most money he ever made in his life.
Most money was ever made.
And he thought he was gonna make a living doing that. Well, he didn't do that for a long time. But like from 54 on, he did make a living up until 64.
They used to
racing.
pay a percentage.
And then we made a pretty good living
Yeah.
by not racing and building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tended to break even when I wasn't racing.
I always figured if you could load the car on a trailer under its own power, you made money, regardless of what they give you at the payoff booth. But when you had to use 2 wreckers to load it on a trailer, you weren't making money that night. It just
Well,
wasn't.
another way to do that is when it rained. You didn't have to unload it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ready for next week.
But I had.
Everybody here remembers Pam.
Oh yeah.
And not a lot happened in her racing career. She wasn't in it that long, but she did win a couple heat races. And she was my tire changer when I was running the ASA. She took care of all the tire needs, and aired them up and measured them, and she helped a lot in the rest of the car, including in the engine. She could take things apart and put them together. Well, she ended up, she's an engineer right now for a company that out in South Carolina, just south of Charlotte. She's office manager of the business, and the business has to do with welding. It's a robot welding idea that this company develops the equipment for different needs, including nuclear reactors. They have just successfully been able to come up with the first welding idea, or where they could take a robot, put it down into one of those tubes. I don't know exactly how to explain it other than this, but it would do a job of welding, and nobody in the world has up to now been able to do that. So they've developed that, and her boss comes in with an idea, and she's the one that puts it on paper and draws it up and has the parts made, and then she assembles the stuff.
She got her start out here at Bearfield.
Yes.
She's went quite a ways.
She worked for GE in tool and die, and then she worked for Cooper Tire and research and development. Then she went to school out in New Mexico.
You talking to Larry about you started making money racing. It was building the cars, right? Didn't your dad start building trailers before he started building cars? Exactly.
Yeah, if you went to a track anywhere in the country, yeah, we built 2,000 trailers.
Yeah, I gotta say, I remember that.
Unreal. I hated that. We get up in the morning, and it was the same job Dad did. But you'd go to a track, and you'd see maybe 10 or 15 trailers at each track. Yeah. And like 5 or 6 cars at each track. No matter if you went to New Paris, Plymouth, South Bend, no matter where you went, you see a bunch of them.
You're still building cars, though, down here. What do you?
I'm kind of semi-retired. So my boy, he's on his way to Wisconsin right now with a group. They're running ASA up there, and he's got a brand new Dodge. Never run before, and they're on their way. They're there now, aren't they?
Yeah, that 21 car, I hauled that around on a Harp trailer.
Did you?
Built me a new trailer for that.
Yeah.
Made it a little bit shorter to accommodate the sprint car, a little bit narrower maybe than a regular stock car trailer.
Yeah, we was the only people in the country that built trailers, I bet.
Yeah, I was going to say,
The mistake I made there is I should have had you put a tire rack on it.
Yeah.
And Scott, you're just going to run Bearfield then? That's the only thing got on the program, right?
As of right now, yeah. We're going to plan to run the whole season out there, and if something else comes along, at the end of the year, I'll be running at Toledo, at the Glass City 200.
Yeah.
I've run that the last couple of years for a fellow out of Michigan. We've done pretty well, so.
I've worked at Glass City 200 probably 20 years ago when they first started, when Markham was still alive, and that's usually a pretty good race. That's a long, drawn-out race on that.
Yeah, they take it now and they split it right in half. They run 100, then they have a 15, 20-minute break, then they run
Only
the
thing, 100 today is fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes fast.
About as fast as a 50-lapper used to be.
Scott was the fastest guy there last year until it rained, and then
we
he wound up in the wall.
Started 21st, got up to 8th in about 75 laps.
Yeah.
And then tried to pass in the wet pavement, didn't work.
That always gets your attention.
Yeah.
I remember going to Heidelberg once when Moose was driving the car, and your folks were out there. I was out there a couple times, and that's back when Joey Fair and
Ruttman
and Meyers, Anderson, Johnny Anderson, and Danny Bird, One Eye, and
Jack was there, Riley and Coe, and
well, the one race they weren't, the one they were, yeah. And I remember Moose, Sorg was there too.
I don't remember Dave being there.
Yeah, well, one of those. Yeah. And he ran up front with them for a long time. And just like out here, the old Bear Field 200s. Geez, I can remember Danny Bird burning the tires off in 50 laps, spinning them coming off the corner, and finally after about 50 laps it was all over with. That's when Markham ran the racetrack, ARCA, when we all worked for ARCA then. That, I don't know, things have changed since Markham's gone, John Andrew, or Bill France Sr.'s gone. I've got a picture of this guy right across the street from you, this Don Liebram. He's got a nice picture of Bill France Sr. in 1940 out here at the big track. He won that race, and I was trying to get a copy of it, but I don't know, Don's been busier and all get out in the last couple of months. I got some stuff I got to take back to him. And there's a guy that you guys never met, Don Liebram. You cannot believe this guy's an engineer for Southern Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern.
He's really a historian. He's a real good racing historian.
Yeah, he. You ask him anything, he's like walking encyclopedia on this stuff. And not only that, he's got the pictures and the programs and everything in his house to back this up. And whenever he decides that he wants more, he takes this stuff down to instant copy and stuff like that and blows them up. And he's really got a really nice set of stuff. Next to him is Bob Coe. Bob Coe has got a library you wouldn't believe. I know I was in it in January, February, March, and April getting stuff out of it and copying it for them other shows. And he's really kept abreast of everything from the first day he raced to even, that's Shirley Ott that's got the ones that shows Jerry Ott when he ran the beach down in Florida and got off into the sand and got buried down in there. And there's pictures of that. I should have brought all that with me. Next week when we do the next show, I'll bring them. When I tried to get this thing ready, not knowing what I was going to do, I left quite a bit of stuff at home.
You know, Bob Coe had a chance to go really big time. Back in 66 or 7, we was at the beach, and he was running. And after the race, Norm Krufscroft, who owned the K&K cars, come over and wanted him to take this car and run it. And Bob told him, no, my business is more important, and I got to get back home. And they put, he slipped my name now, the guy.
Bobby Isaac.
Bobby Isaac got in it.
He drove the car.
And then he went big time and great. He done guns with it. But Coe had that ride before him, if he wanted it. And it's too bad, you know.
Yeah, I think he could have done some great stuff. Koskoff took that car to Bonneville Salt Flats.
Yes, he did.
And they set a lot of land records, and some of those records are still standing.
Well, they done a whole bunch unreal.
Yeah, that's with a stock car.
I bought one of Koskoff's cars when I started ARCA.
I worked for Koskoff. Well, I do Koskoff, Norm Koskoff. And his dad had the garage here on Clinton Street. In fact, the garage still stands. It's south of Wallace before you get to Creighton. It's on the east side, and it's got Koskoff up above. There, it's a brick building. And they were...
Isn't that where Whitey Demery had?
Whitey Demery hung out in there and had that for a long time.
And there used to be and he also put a girl in his ARCA car years ago. He had a girl named Frances Page in that car.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know.
I just talked to her daughter.
I was so young, you know, back then. Well, I see her, I can't think of his name right now, but her brother comes by, Popeye.
Page.
Comes by the shop every once in a while.
I talked to him just recently, too.
If that isn't years ago, you know that? And he really knows a lot about it.
I've tried to get Popeye on these, but he's too busy with snowmobiles. He dreams snowmobiles in the summertime.
Yeah, I think he raced a little bit, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
But not very much.
Well, not really too much.
But what was funny is his sister raced back in them days. And
he was with, trying to think, a guy went with Chrysler. He was an engineer for Chrysler, running around with Whitey also, and Koskoff. Whitey had a Dodge, and Koskoff had a 49 Ford when they ran with the Safe outfit, and when they run late models, and But anyway, Koskoff promoted races at New Bremen a couple times, and I went down there and did some flagging for him, and drove the water wagon for him, and then
I almost brought some pictures.
That's
and
when
I
it was a
changed my
real
mind.
racetrack.
Yes, that was.
Dirt.
Yeah, I got pictures of my dad running. Years ago, you know, like when they split off from the association and they didn't run as supers at Bear Field,
yeah,
most of these guys run like Eldora,
yeah, well,
Allentown, Jackson, Michigan, and they split off. And then you guys kind of come in and run South Anthony, and that's when Co come in. My dad sold Co his first modified.
yeah, because see, when the big
Yeah.
track, Nub Wysong started Northeastern.
Yeah.
That's when there was a split there.
Yeah, I
and
remember.
then we had the split there at South Anthony, and the big tracker, Failer and all them guys, the Fort Wayne Racing Association went out to Bear Field and sanctioned races out there, and that left Carl Harbor floating on his own. That's when you was talking about for a while they didn't run. Well,
Yeah.
they didn't, but without the association, it was pretty hard to do anything because they really controlled where the cars went. But at one time, there was over 100 cars in the association. And the old Fort Wayne Racing Association, we used to divide them up, and half the cars would go to Warsaw and half the cars would go to Ohio on a given night.
I got pictures of running Hicksville. That Hicksville was a big deal
Yeah.
where they took over from
That
South
was
Anthony.
that was a flat horse track.
Yes, it was. Wasn't it?
And Mel Bourne went right through the horse barns there one night, right through the
I
track.
think that's the first track that is the first track I ever run.
Yeah.
Hicksville.
Hicksville.
Yeah. I got a picture of
It was with Nub Wysong that I went up there.
Yeah, they were still paying off in dollars that said silver certificates on them back then.
I had,
If you'd have saved that money and invested it, you would be worth $1 million today.
I got a big picture of Duke Crocker, Bob Failer, and my dad. They're all three going through the wall and tipping over. It's unreal. And it isn't no wall. It was a very dangerous track.
It was,
Super dangerous.
there wasn't a wall there. It was
Yeah.
a fence. It was a
Wooden fence.
wooden fence
Yeah.
that stood up straight up and down.
There ain't no way they should have ever run that track. No way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was right after the war, and everybody had money to. Nobody had a lot of money, but everybody had some money to spend on entertainment, I guess.
Yeah.
And you could get into a racetrack for $2.50, and beer was a quarter, and pop was a nickel, and a sandwich was 15 cents, and that was back when it was really a lot of fun. That's why we was talking about South Anthony. The reason why South Anthony was such a given to be what it was on account of the beer
alcohol.
tent, the
You're
beer
right.
on the back straightaway and the beer on the front of the straightaway.
Oh, it was
And
terrible.
It was. That's what drawed everybody out there.
You know how you were talking about unsafe and stuff? I remember when I was a little kid, and this was 1950, and we went to Fort Wayne Speedway,
Yeah.
and they was short of cars. Of course, my dad didn't have no money or nothing, and we're in a 37 Plymouth,
Yeah.
and they talked him into taking that seats out of that, taping up the headlights, and going out there and racing that 37 Plymouth.
That happened quite
No
a bit.
seat belts.
No.
All he had's a helmet on.
Oh, I think we're down in the last 30 seconds now of this fastest hour we'll ever endure.
You could never get it all in.
No, I've seen the same thing happen at South Bend. So I want to thank everybody for showing up today, and this has been exciting. I think whatever happens from this show next will be something to see. So again,
I was running way ahead of all the other cars. I was doing fine and everything was good so far. Track was getting hotter with the melting of the tar. 10 more laps to go. 10 more laps. 10 more laps. 10 more laps. 10 more laps to go. I took out all the old parts and made it like new. Then I got her started and she ran like new. When the flag was lowered, I knew what to do. 20